Morning, everybody. It's always nice to wake up and find out you got a free podcast on the internet. And then remind yourself, I have a podcast I got to go make on the internet. Oh no. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to SketchCraft Morning Podcast. We're going to have fun for a show for you today. Yep. So today, we got another interview for you. It's going to be awesome. Bringing on Jen Broomall.
Hello.
Hey, Jen, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
We had a fun little episode. My internet went out like right before, and I was like, I can't get Discord on my phone. Like, so I don't know how to work the phone. What's the phone? I was like, I almost went down to T-Mobile. I was like, work this thing. Like Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai. I don't know phones, man. You use computers, you know.
I feel like I do that too. Like I want to like just carry my whole computer into the store and be like, make it happen.
You lost that opportunity 20 years ago, kid.
Yeah, they're like, this is not how it works these days. They're like, it's not working for me.
Well, we're gonna move on in just a second, but I will say, like, you ever give yourself a thought right before you go to sleep where you're like, why did I do that to myself? Like last night, for some reason, I decided to remind myself that I first used Amazon in 1999. I don't know why. You know, it's like, that's 20. What was the... Oh, no, It was all just books, you know?
You're like, that was Stone Age.
Right. And now I have computers with listening devices who can't tell me, you know, anything useful, Alexa, right?
But it knows everything I'm going to buy.
Yeah, right.
It does.
Isn't that right? Thank you, Alexa.
Yeah, Odessa.
So, see, she never wants to say you're welcome. She stopped talking to me a week ago.
No, eventually she starts ignoring.
I think she's just reporting, this guy is a loser. You know, why'd you send me to this art studio? Go to Sean Gordon Murphy's studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's over there like, when is Skynet coming? I'm so done.
2:14 a.m. August 29th. And every year, Jen, if you follow me at all, every August 29th, you're gonna see at 2:14 a.m. I post a meme reminding everybody.
Just so you know.
Well, this year I got lucky because James Cameron also announced a new trailer right after I posted that. So I was like, yes, finally. All right, so who is Jen Broomall? Look, my audience is limited, right? So
okay.
we need to explain to them. So Jen is a freelance artist. Is that fair to explain?
Mm-hmm.
Right, freelance artist. I met a number of years ago working with Tom over at Big Dog Inc. I think that's how we met. I think the last time we actually said hello is for Lights Camera Jungle. I want to say that was
probably.
I think that's when Tom launched the Kickstarter for Lights Camera Jungle. I think it was 2016.
Oh man!
I've grown 2 inches since then. I got a little notch on the wall. I'm so proud of myself. So I know, right? Let's just talk about me.
And ask what you're measuring, but that's good. Congrats.
Ego.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. My wife's like,
She's like, no.
So let's go ahead and here's Jen's. All right, yeah, believe me. Here's Jen's Instagram page. We could check this out. I really, sadly, I was a little bit busy a month or two earlier this year when you launched your Kickstarter. I would have asked you to be on during then, but you don't need my help. Look at you. You earned, wow. You pocketing all that 10 grand by yourself, right? Just putting that right into Hot Toys.
Yeah,
never shipping nothing.
No. Actually, I shipped everything. That was a massive case of heartburn. Just because doing Kickstarter alone with no help is difficult. I mean, I tried to rope in my children, but again, they're really tiny, so they were not that helpful except for like stuffing the pins. Because I made pins into like little baggies. So that was good. I had some child labor, but other than that, it was all me.
It's in the pie chart on the Kickstarter.
You don't really count. You only get a little bit of food now. But and then of course, my husband is supportive and he helped me with packing everything. But that was the whole like 2 hours in the garage of us just legit just cursing at each other.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Oh God, just like, can't you just get in the effing box? So, try not to drop things and make sure everything is makes sense and packaged well. But other than that, the whole Kickstarter was run by yours truly, and it was a baby Kickstarter. I just wanted it to be simple. I basically was just trying to make money to print the books. I participated in #Mermaid, and I was like, that's like 30 something drawings. Let's make this work for me. And then I also met Tom Bancroft, who started the #Mermaid campaign, and I asked him to do a forward, and got to talk to him about old Disney days and things like that, which is really, really cool. And went from there. It ended up being like double what we had asked for initially, which was great. That helped me. And after I did pay for everything, and then I shipped everything, I did use what was left to help. We redid my studio because the space was so cramped. I have a really odd shaped room in this house, and we had to make it work better because I was just kind of getting lost in my little cave.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll get into. I got specific Kickstarter questions in a little bit, but let's just reel it back a bit.
Okay.
So I just want to start a little bit at some of your art influences, right? Maybe when you were younger and first learning, what kind of effect you did then, and maybe what sort of influences you now. Like, because I take a look, I'm like, I see some 90s, and I definitely remember the last time we met, you were like, Rob, check it out. And I was like, what I do? And you showed me, you had a copy of Spawn Wildcats. Which is drawn by Scott Clark, which I want to talk about too. That's he's a bit of a
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very underrated. He was such a great artist, and that book in particular is really well written. But let's talk about some of your influences when you were younger and now. So, what inspired you to draw? Like what gets you there?
Dude, well, I mean, of course, being children of the 80s, so we were inspired by a lot of things. But like Brian Froud, definitely, and like this Dark Crystal revamping, I'm just kind of like going absolutely crazy for, because it's like all of that beautiful aesthetic that I love.
So,
And
for those who don't know who Brian Froud is, Brian Froud was the original illustrator for the Dark Crystal. A lot of he did books and stuff. I just remember the big book of Brian Froud when I was like in high school, because it had that
with the waterfall.
Yeah, and it had that scripty font. I want to say it was like early papyrus, right? Papyrus, whatever Ryan Gosling would call that. But yeah. So, and then I was like, oh, this guy's art is dope. So I definitely get that.
It was beautiful. And I mean, really, if you look at us, this generation that grew up with having that, we are really, really heavily influenced, even if we like it or not, because he did just so many movies with Jim Henson and all of those designs. And
Labyrinth.
Yeah, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal. And it's just, his stuff is just gorgeous, especially when you pick up his art books. They're a feast for the eyes. So I totally, absolutely loved him. And then, of course, the 50s pinups, like Gil Evergreen and Joyce Ballantyne and things like that. And then, of course, like you said, the 90s, when I got into comics, I got into comics in the 90s. So the epic hair, the crazy outfits. I had the influence from my dad from the older comics, because he was a big Spider-Man fan and whatnot. But I didn't start actually reading comics until like the 90s, and that was the big Image days and all of that. So you see that in how I draw my stuff, but I think that it's starting to lean away from it now. They're not so hyper stylized anymore.
You're like, I need to move forward.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, after a while, as artists, as we tend to like to grow and try new things. So your style grows and changes. And then after a while, like for me, I was like, I'm tired of drawing chicks. So
I can see this. Nothing but dudes here.
Yeah. Let's draw some guys now. But there's going to be some beefcake coming.
It should be a countdown. There should be a countdown clock with like a beef like a drawing of a beefcake, right? You're like, oh my God, it's
Yes.
coming.
Yes.
Did you did you ever see that
So
pizza cake shirt at Hot Topic? It was like
no.
they literally did this shirt years ago. Like it's like a cake with the slides cut out. It's pizza cake, and I'm like, you fucking genius, you know? Why didn't I
So
think of that? Like, so
man, I could start using the puns for me. Dang it.
so
No,
more recently, do you find yourself more inspired by artists you found on Instagram, or just things on the internet, or and your kids come home and they're like, "Look at this amazing artist! Why can't you be as great as like?" Does that ever happen? My niece gives me that one. She likes to.
your niece.
She likes to send me texts. Uncle Rob, you can really learn from this kid, you know. And I'm like, thanks, appreciate it.
Kid's like 12. You're like, shut the heck up.
Yeah, kid's like a dude she's interested in. He's the best. I'm like, isn't he the greatest? Take you out sometime. Like,
Good job. Well, thankfully, right now they're still too young to like. It's cute because they're 9 and 5, and they when we go to comic shops, my oldest will be all like, "My mom drew that." So,
nice.
so they're still proud of me. But then at the
Countdown
same
clock
time,
to 14, right?
yes. So when they're not. But then like we'll go like recently we just did Dragon Con and the childcare fell through, so they were with us and that was a long show. And we would walk around and they like right now with their age, they're attracted to cute things. So all things cute. They're all like,
Right.
Mom, 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 Mom. And I'm all like, yeah, I like it too. It's really cute, but I don't
They must
know.
really love the enamel pins from the Kickstarter.
They love the
Right.
pins. Oh my God. They went berserk for over the pins. But they're supportive in their own way. I think for me, what I'm influenced by now is I do check out Instagram a lot. Like pretty much everyone that I follow on Instagram is an artist. And it's a double-edged sword because you're scrolling and you see so much amazing
Mm.
artists and artwork, and then you're after like a while you're like, I'm not good enough. You have to just step away from the phone, but it's beautiful to see how much talent is out there. I would love to be able to draw cuter. It just does not seem to be my style at the moment. I can draw cute things, but they seem to like take on a spooky edge. So, and that seems to be my wheelhouse. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, with Kicks, so I was fortunate when I was younger to go to Comic Con in San Diego. Literally, I
Mm-hmm.
was there when Image launched. So I would be like, I'll tell you about that sometime. So I would see all this amazing art, and it would be a good reality check. Like, okay, so that is the actual industry standard, not the other kid at school who draws who's competing with Rob.
Mm-hmm.
But I could leave that there and come home and then work, right? And
Right.
now with Instagram, there's so many amazing artists. You get the feeling like sometimes you ever get the feeling like, oh, everyone's making all this amazing art, you know, like
Yeah.
at once, but me, I'm the only person not doing anything, you know. So I see it sometimes, especially with young artists, I think they feel like they're competing with 10,000 other people simultaneously, and it's not really the case at all.
No, no. And that's the thing that, it's a great thing to have this social media. But again, that's why I call it a double-edged sword because it can give you that whole complex and whatnot. So you do have to just kind of set it down and step away and then focus on yourself and stop comparing. I mean, I love being inspired, but we all have that innate competitive streak in all of us. We wouldn't be successful artists if we didn't. Um, but at the same time, it's kind of like when I tell people all the time, like you can be influenced, you can be inspired, but in the end, you're never going to draw like so and so because you're not so and so.
Right.
So stop comparing and just fix your thing, improve yourself, improve your craft. It's going to take time. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. You're going to cry. You're going to get mad. And then you're going to make mistakes. But then you're going to improve. And then you look back in a year and you're like, wow, I really sucked. I got better. And, it's really, you can only compete against yourself. Be inspired by others. And then just kick yourself in the pants to get better.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So when did you first start doing freelance? Like, how did that, like, when, okay, so you started, I'm assuming you drew in high school. You're like, I love art. Like, so when did you make the jump from, I love art to, someone needs to pay for these art supplies. Like,
so I need to make money for this. This is expensive. I love to draw, and I was always surrounded by it as a kid in high school, even younger, because my mother was a graphics designer back in the heyday of the 60s and 70s. This is why I'm really heavily traditional too, because I inherited all of their supplies.
oh, nice.
Yeah, like I'm using my dad's old drafting stencils still. And like this is crap you can't find anymore because they just don't make it.
Built to last too, right?
I know it is. It really is, unless you like crack it in half. So it's kind of like, don't do that. But so my mother designed like dog food bags and things. So she has a good like. She has two styles that are unique to her. She can draw like hyper realism, and then she draws this really odd. It's not cartoon. She does not draw like me at all, but it's like this abstract look that's just, it's distinctly hers. It's very interesting. And then my dad did architecture, and he worked at the Navy base designing airplanes and helicopters and stuff. So that was my background as far as any kind of teaching that I received, but it was mostly just their fundamentals. Like my parents were like, composition and negative in space, and now figure it out on your own. And
their parenting style was that drawing meme where it's start with the sketch, and then boom, done, Spider-Man.
Yeah, draw the rest.
Right.
But that was the thing, is like they were like, go look at things, go figure it out. And it's the same thing that I'm doing to my children, and they're actually becoming very good artists, but it's because you're not giving lessons, you're teaching fundamentals, and then you're letting them figure it out on their own. And that was me. And then in college, I dropped it completely. I have a degree in musical theater. Yeah, I can sing and dance and jazz hands.
So you can do the lights, camera, jungle play, right? Like you can musical,
yeah, for
right? The world is a jungle, right? Like
yes, I'll be extra number 5 over there in the corner stage.
And who's the big dog now? Or that I would like that one. Starring Steven Seagal, and then Tom will be like, "It's very funny, Rob. It's really funny."
He'll be like, "Come on, this is a good idea. We're taking to Broadway."
That was amazing.
You're welcome. But which I don't use my degree. Sadly, when I graduated college, I actually dropped doing anything art-wise for like 6 years. I didn't pick up a pencil for a very long time until I realized that the rat race of performing was really a drag. Going to all these auditions and then not getting cast, and then just basically being a number. It's a cutthroat industry. If you think that comics are hard, good Lord. It ended up not being fun anymore, and there was no joy. And I realized that art gave me a lot more joy than performing, which performing gives me joy, but not the whole auditioning part of it, I guess. And so I started back up, and I was really bad. I was drawing really crappy anime stuff. But
of course,
I figured, yeah, of course, because we all start somewhere. But I figured I'd take my sketchbook to Heroes Con, and that was Shane and I were together. We were not married. I think I was like 22 at the time, and I got a dress down critique, which was a very good critique on my work. Basically it was a "you suck" critique, which was good feedback. It was what I needed him. I could handle that. It was when the gentleman was like, he kind of looked at me, he was like, "How old are you?" I'm like, I'm 22. And he's like, "Well, you're old." I'm like, what? and he's like, "And you're a girl." So, and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "So with you being 22 and a woman, you two are together, obviously. So you're going to have kids, you're not going to have time, and your skill level is just not there. So just don't do it." And it was like a slap in the face. So I have a tendency to.
You clearly took his advice.
I'm a dick that way. I like to be. I like to prove people wrong, especially when they hurt my feelings. So
right.
I get vindictive. I'm like, fine, I'm going to be successful, you jerk. And, you know, I cried, but then I took his art critique to heart and then gave the finger to the rest of the stuff and really sat down and worked on learning anatomy, drawing stuff I don't like drawing, and moving from there. And then I think I was working a temp job, and I was 6 months pregnant, and I got laid off because I was pregnant. So with the pre-existing condition, I wasn't going to get another job, so I decided to go for it. And here I am today. Yes, I have no time. I am older. I have children, but I still do it. I just sacrificed my sanity. So,
you know, this is something that, like, so to give you a little bit of my background, my mom had me when she was very young, and then she got married, and then in the 80s divorce early on, so her and I were living together. And so I was raised on, like, Alice, the TV show Alice, and Independent Woman, and, you know, Rob, no one's going to give, you know, anyone, she told me anyone a break in life, but clearly it was how much more harder she had it than my father. And I could see that just by how I live with my mom compared to my dad. And I was like, ooh, this doesn't work. So when I was a kid going to Comic-Con, these artists would tell me things like, hey, you know, really get into comics maybe when you're 30, so you got time to give your art a chance to grow, you know, like freelance, get it, whatever, but maybe comics when you're a little older. Not a single one of them ever said, and you're probably going to have kids, so you should just give up. Like, like it never came up. Like, and it's so weird because I'm like, is anyone telling your husband, hey, hey, quit your job too because you might have kids someday, you know? And art ain't going to be like not because art's the only demanding job that might keep you away from home or up late at night, right?
Well, and it's kind of like, you know, I guess like on the flip side, I know several artists who are fathers, and it's not even the eye is not even batted twice. Now, granted, some of them are, you know, in a relationship where, yes, their partner or wife or whomever takes care of the kids at home, etc. Or some of them are also single parents. So they're juggling the same issues that I am, but because they're dude, I guess it's not, I guess the stigma is still sort of there. Now, granted, when I was 22, it was very different. I mean, like looking at Comic-Con artist alleys, even now, there's so many more women there that it's refreshing, even from like 5 years ago. And
I believe, Jen, is the power of anime and manga. Like, and I'm not even being like facetious. I'm being dead serious. Luckily, because those bookstores like Barnes and Noble started carrying that giant manga section around the early 2000s, a lot of young girls grew up, you know, being able to read Full Metal, you know, One Piece. Like, Ashley just got done watching all 1,000 episodes of One Piece. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You know, like that, how do you even do that? It's amazing. So, but that's awesome, right? To see that change, even from when, I think when you and I first met, you and, the cutest couple in the world. I'm goofing on her name. She's an amazing artist. Her and her husband, I'm really not good with names.
Was it Natalie?
Yeah, Natalie. You and her were sharing a table, and it wasn't a lot of women in that artist alley. I mean, I probably could have counted them on two hands. You know?
Right. We were like an endangered species at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And now, you know.
And now it seems like there's so many more, and it's like a gamut as far as like the different styles that you see too. And so it's like you have women drawing legit straight pinups, you have women drawing absolutely cute things, you have traditional, digital, and you have them, and it's all spaced out with the guys, and it seems like everybody's at the same level on the playing field. So you see that it's not necessarily that gender is what bases the talent, it's just the opportunity, I think. And then of course everybody who's their individual drives and whatnot. I think the biggest thing still is that, you know, like at Dragon Con, I'm there holding my 5-year-old and people are like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I had no idea.
I'm going to prove that asshole wrong. He told me when I was 22 I couldn't do both. And I'm doing both literally at the same time, drawing, and I got the kid in my hand.
I'm still going to go back to my hotel room and cry in the shower tonight with a bottle of wine, but I'm doing it. So, I mean, it's I ain't going to lie, it's hard, but I think too with my husband and I, when I decided to really go for it, first he made sure that it wasn't like hormonal pregnancy craze stuff, and he was like, okay, like you're actually going to do that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It was, we sat down and we made sure that we would be financially okay to live off of one income, which is his job. And he is extremely successful in his work. He's in HR, which is hilarious given my job.
Right.
But he's at top of his game, and people were like, well, then you guys are, together. And they see us at shows. He's like the best person to sell my stuff. But after shows, he doesn't have a hand in it at all because he's doing his job. Right. He's keeping the roof over our heads, And
one point on that. So if I remember right, Shane was a big Zelda fan, right?
Yes.
I see. Look, I'm not good with names, but I remember.
The game.
I remember his eyes just like lit up, and his phone went off. He's like, the Zelda theme played.
Yes, and then like the group of Zeldas went by, and he spazzed.
Right.
He's like, chased them.
He's like, you know of this game? I'm like, yes, Shane, I've heard. Like, it's very amazing.
And awesome. What's funny is he is playing those old games now with our kids.
Yeah, that's
we got the old system.
That's the one thing, I don't have kids because I do not like sharing my toys. I understand. So I get to vicariously be the Funkle. Right, that term,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when I get to show my nephews or nieces the things that we love, you get to sort of re-experience it again as a general idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for the day I bought the first virtual reality dev kit from Oculus, the DK1. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I'm in VR. And then they came over and they're like, I'm in another dimension. I'm like, don't rip that cord out of my computer. Or I'm going to be financially in another dimension. It's not.
I will not be Funkle anymore.
Yeah. Grumple.
Yes,
Grumple.
At you.
Right. Funkle sounds like a Billy Bob Thornton movie waiting to happen, don't you think?
Oh my god. Oh god.
So let's just get back to the Kickstarter Mermaid. You mentioned a little bit before it was a hashtag. I am unfamiliar with this. So when did you first conceive of the idea of doing the Mermaid art book? Like when did that?
Like 2 years ago, I saw the campaign of hashtag Mermaid. So it was very much similar like Inktober. Where you're just drawing something every day towards a theme. With Inktober is drawing something in ink. Usually they release a list like they have this year. And Mermaid is the same thing, except it's in May. And every day for the month of May, you draw mermaids. Now they do release a theme if you'd like to follow it. If not, just draw mermaids. And Tom Bancroft, who was the creator of Mushu and Mulan, and worked on Lion King and all of that stuff. He created that whole campaign on a whim, and it snowballed. And I love fantasy art anyway. So I was like, this will be a fun practice to just get into drawing daily. And I participated in it 1 year, and I failed miserably because I just couldn't keep up. It's much more difficult than I expected. And then the next year, I made the decision to just really go for it because, my summers are restricted. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to draw mermaids. This will be great. And I did prelim stuff first to build up to it. That's how I keep up with these campaigns. And then I did it. And that was also how I built my Twitch channel as well. People were watching me participate in this campaign. Other people started participating in it. And whatnot. So it was like this little community. And then at the end, I had, over 30 drawings. And I figured, I'm like, if I'm participating in these little hashtag campaigns online, which are fun, why am I not using all of this work for myself? Because finally, it's not fan art. It's something that came out of my brain that I own exclusively. So I figured I'd make this work for me. And that's when I decided to try the Kickstarter to see if I even had the fan base to support it and branch out. Because that's my hope in the future, is to create more work that's mine and hopefully come up with like a nice slick art book. And the goal is to eventually like get picked up and have a large art book at Barnes and Noble one day. That's my future.
That is awesome. Yeah, so when I first started doing Comic-Con, when I started going to Comic-Con, there were the thing to go to Comic-Con for was either to meet the professionals, obviously, or to see the artists in Artist Alley and what they're doing next. Fan art was only really, there was like one or two dudes who were doing fan art in the 90s, and there was always like the really sexy up, like basically the lewds. The lewds,
Yes.
Batgirl lewds, and there was always, everyone was like, oh, that lewd guy back there with the Jim Balin knockoff art. Yeah. And after around Spider-Man, the first movie came out, then the fandom was at a point where it seemed to me that the fan art came about because people were looking to get a drawing of something they already knew. Like when you go to the theme park, you'd like to get something that on the theme park, but Comic-Con. And so that sort of took off. And the original idea thing kind of just didn't seem doable at con. I mean, I remember I was with Tom around 2009, and it was like, here's my own chicks. I had these things called Guns and Butter. Wasn't the best idea, but it was girls on like bikes with just absurd amounts of guns.
But it was cute. I remember them.
Right. And it went nowhere. I mean, like I couldn't do anything. So here comes the fan art. But now it seems to be coming back. I think because there's so much of it, people are like, when you have your own ideas, Jen, so.
Well, I think that the problem is that before, like you said, it was a supply demand thing. And the consumer gravitates towards the familiar. Unfortunately, like when you go to these shows, you have to have something familiar to attract attention. But now the market has become so oversaturated that you have people who are not published and are just, print jockeys pushing stuff and fan art because they don't have to get published. They can create this art. People know it, so they go to it and they buy it. But even now, that's starting to die away because there's so much that folks are wanting to see something else.
There's actually people at con who they don't even do any art. They literally just get art from different artists, either legitimately or illegitimately. There seems to be more legitimately now, but it was a problem. Still is.
My stuff is swiped everywhere.
And then they'll erect this booth, and it's just like, how does one guy do 800? I mean, I can have 4 or 5 different styles. I get it, but that many different? And they're just these like print vendors. So it definitely, I always feel bad for that one newer artist who she's like right across from him. She's just got her little booth set up and she thought it out. And then, like it's like the big box store moving right across from the mom and pop.
Yeah,
like,
with the lights and
right,
and all of the stuff and all the distractions and look over here and it's gotten a little cutthroat in Artist Alley. And I feel like if you're going to be just a print vendor, then get out of the Artist Alley and go into the vendor floor, pay the money, pay the toll, and go compete with the other stores. But at the same time, I have seen and I've watched that print sales are actually starting to go down simply because there's so many. People can now be picky. And also they're wanting more books. Their walls are full, so they have no more space. So they want something they can hold, they can carry with them. And they want things that are different. And now that's starting to attract people as something that stands out from the crowd, something that's different, something that's unique. And that's where the art books come from. I know myself, like as being an artist, I love art books. So seeing more art books, I'm like, oh my God, yes. And I end up going home with bags that are heavier than when we showed up because I have bought so many books. But, It's going, like, the convention scene is going to constantly change, and it's going to evolve as comics become more popular with the films and whatnot. As you know, this stuff becomes more pop culture versus being, you know, the odd thing to be interested in. It's now popular. So I think that having something original that is your own is not necessarily bad. And I think that having a good balance of fan art plus the original, you know, get the fan art stuff to rope people in, get the original stuff to be like, hey, this is me. And then you can, you know, you can go from there.
In financials class, I'd call it diversification.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it takes time to get there. I think that's just the one thing I try to stress. This is one of the reasons YouTube, they do that. They give me the call every year to talk to me about my YouTube channel. Like, how come you suck? You know, like, you're just not very popular, Rob, and here's how you can get popular. And I have to explain to them, I don't want to be that popular. Like, no offense, guys. Like, I think a lot of these kids, they see these channels that have millions of views, and they think that they have to instantly start drawing, you know, pro level art and start putting it on the internet and just get out there, and that's going to solve all their art problems. And taking the time to learn foundations, learn fundamentals, and then to be able to also give you the time to have different styles and different content, and to understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And just inherently doesn't cooperate with the clickbait nature of you know, views on the internet.
Yeah,
However,
that's tough.
Yeah, I'll let you finish your sentence. But however, long term, as an artist, that I mean, you're gonna be doing this for a while, so you can't, if you bow to the whims of what's trend, what algorithm's working today, it's not gonna matter 5 years from now.
It's not. And I think the tough part is like the whole, like, patience is not practiced that much. Like, we all want that instant gratification. And it's something that I try to explain. Like, I've gone and I've talked to teenagers, and they're like, but I want to be good right now. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, but you're not. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because you got to put the time in, and you're not going to be instantly good. Now, granted, there is that one kid over there that we all wish, you know, wish well, but at the same time hate, because they're like, I'm not very good. And they show you your stuff and they're amazing. And you're like, shit it. But that's a rarity. It's not the norm. And I try to explain, like, you didn't start talking in a day. You can't watch a video on how to play the trumpet and immediately know how to play the trumpet. You have to put the work in, and you have to put in that time. And I also think that people don't realize that when you're on the outside and you're watching an artist grow is actually very satisfying and gratifying, to see their growth, to see their change and their journey. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't have to be instantly good, but you can also pigeonhole yourself if you start out with this one thing, and then the minute you try to branch out to something different, then all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, 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 that's not why I like you. I mean, God forbid Jim Lee change.
Just saying. The funny thing about that, so when I joined the military in '98, so it's right after the Heroes Reborn thing got completed. And when I came back, I got back just a few months before 9/11, sadly. I went to Con. I went to Con, which was still being held in August. So it was just a couple months before. Yeah, it was a month before 9/11. So, and Jim wasn't anywhere to be found. He had just done the Divine Right, but he wasn't really producing work. He was running Wildstorm. And so I was at Artist Alley, and which was on the left side of Comic-Con that year. We used to be on the right. And I'm sitting there, and these younger kids were like trying to get Jim to draw some manga stuff. And they're like, you draw manga? And then he was trying to kind of give them what they wanted. And they were like laughing at it. And I'm like, be laughing at fucking Jim Lee, dude. You know what I mean? That fucking dude, you know what that dude can do? Fucking what?
Have you seen his interiors?
But this really happened, you know? And this was before he did the Batman and all. And I was like, and at the time, I'm like, he's an amazing like I remember in '95 watching him show up to con, and it was like you know that scene in Spider-Man where they all carry Spider-Man over his shoulders, like in Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
2. It was like I'd never the entire con swarmed Jim. So
Yeah.
sometimes you know clowning. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I kind of lost my thought on that. I think that there is a timeliness with kids, right? Like when you're younger
Mm-hmm.
artists, you're like, why can't you do this now? I get it when some cats ask me, why don't you draw like you know the realistic rendered like art germ stuff? You know, like why don't you ever think about doing something that looks more realistic? I'm like, yeah, and then I that makes me want to quit life. Like I'm not interested in
Yeah.
it, kids. You know what I mean? Like it's not what Rob likes to do. Like it doesn't, it's not my interest. If that
Mm-hmm.
interests you, I suggest you pursue that. Please, you know,
Right.
make more of it because,
Mm-hmm.
but don't. You ever get someone asking you, especially a client, right? They're like, "Can you draw in this style?" You're like, "Yeah, but why did you ask? Why did you hire me?" Like, it's so not what you do. You know, like it
Yeah.
would almost be counterintuitive to sit down trying to do it. Do you ever experience
And
that?
that's yes, I have experienced that. And that it's also like when people are like, "Can you draw my tattoo?" I'm like, you're forcing an artist to draw on someone else's title style, and it's not gonna look the same.
The tattoo thing
Um,
is crazy because
oh,
I don't even
I
have one. And I'm like,
hate
guys,
it.
I'm not against it, but I don't have tattoos, and you probably don't want a guy who doesn't want tattoos drawing your tattoos. You
I explain, I'm like, I don't understand the canvas that is skin. It moves.
know?
It is not, I was like, all those little details and stuff. I'm like, you want to talk to a tattoo, and guess what's in the second title of their, title? Artist.
Yeah, takes a lot of effort.
I'm like, you're gonna want to talk to a legit artist. And if you find one that's really good, they're gonna be expensive. So then you save your money and then you get something beautiful. But I can't prevent you from putting myself on your body, and I thank you, and I've had that happen, and that's humbling, and it's like, wow, that's amazing that you wanted something of mine permanently on you. Cool. Um, but I just don't get skin canvas, and it's my canvas is paper, and it's 2D, and it doesn't move, it doesn't twitch, and it doesn't grow.
This is a really weird podcast, Jen. So,
I know, I'm sorry, but that's my thing about tattoos. But like the whole Jim Lee's comment is like, I know that there was a time when he actually, like when he was finally popular and he had hit that superstardom, like Oprah Winfrey-esque level that he is at now, and he started to change his style because we eventually like to shake things up sometimes, and then the fans just were like, no, 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 and he really I think if he created another screen name, he might be able to get away with a different style if he wanted,
well,
to just explore that path.
my com.
um,
One second on that thought. My comic book shop, the guy who owned the comic book shop in my town, Pat
mm-hmm,
Duffy. He's from New York. And he would tell me
mm-hmm,
when I was a kid, he's like, Rob, Jim Lee's, he's just Barry Windsor Smith, you know? And I'm like, Barry Windsor Smith, the dude from Valiant? Like, I don't. And
mm-hmm.
then I would start to look. I know the dude from Damn Valiant. That shows you my naivete, you know? I was like, well, Weapon X, like Conan, I know. But, at the time, you only knew what Wizard let you know. So,
Right.
um, but I could see
I
the
remember those.
understructure. Like if you remove the inking, I could see, oh, that's a really dynamic, let's say MTV'd up version of Barry Windsor Smith. And I think
Mm-hmm.
now, since he does a lot of his own inking and brushwork with the commissions and the covers and stuff, I just see, oh, it looks more and more like the Barry Windsor Smith and less like, someone is just inking over uh, like a style, like the chromatic Scott Williams sort of inking style.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so speaking of paper, let's go back. What tools do you prefer to use? Let's say obviously for Mermaid, it was mostly traditional, right?
Oh yeah, I'm strictly a traditional artist. The digital confuses the living snot out of me. I can use Photoshop for the bare minimum basics, and then after that, I just get overwhelmed and try to almost punch my computer. So yeah, very old school. I use a light box, and like people are like, "How do you get your pencils clean?" I'm like, light box.
You're like, it's like an iPad without a brain.
Yeah. It's like, and the layers are just layers of paper, and that's how it works. I've done everything from even like making my own like graphite transfers if I have to, like using a HB lead and just smudging it on the back. And that kit is where you just scribble on the back, put it on there, and then press really hard so it makes a pencil line on the paper that you're wanting. And but no, I use Eon Comic Artboards is the paper that I prefer to use for my penciling and inking. It also handles the Copic markers very well. It does not take watercolor that well, simply because it absorbs so much that it starts to warp. And I've been exploring watercolors lately, so that in itself is a whole other world. But for the most part, I'm using pencils, 2H leads, either mechanical pencil or lead holders, either whichever one is near me. And then I use Sumi ink and nibs. And so I ink my stuff with loose inks and the nibs and brush pens and brushes. And after that, usually I scan it in and I send it off. Like you see the pretty finished digital colors. I work with about 4 separate colors who can color my stuff unless I want to color it myself. And then I use Copic markers and watercolor. And then that's how I get it all done. Cha cha cha.
Yeah, I always find like with supplies, I try to like remind artists when they ask me, what paper do you use? What pencils? I'm like, look, man, these papers are this is what works for me. Like, it's not going to work for you, you know? Like, it's not like the paper or the pencils come with, talent included.
Yeah, when you get that, what are you using? And you say it, and then they wait a minute to come back, because I think that some folks forget that your master class watching someone work, not necessarily getting the list of tools and going for it. I also think that finding a community of artists is better than just asking what tools are and then buying it and then not knowing how to use it. I wouldn't have started inking with loose inks had I not found a close-knit community and basically just been forced to try it. I was with this group and I was like, God, your inks look so organic and I love the shapes and how do you do it? Like, basically when I stumble across really talented artists and I don't understand it, like just start screaming at them, you're a witch. And
oh, that witch con, that dragon con must be fun.
And they and it was Stephen Green. He's really talented. If you ever get a chance to look up his work, he's amazing. And he's one of those, and I love him, and he's so talented. But he's one of those that with a sketchbook that legit looks like a portfolio. He's like, oh, just do this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm all like, but yeah, like every page is beautiful. And of course, my sketchbook is my own like learning diary, so every page is crap, because I'm drawing things I don't like drawing. So you see my struggle, but I sat there and I watched him work, and then I was just like, I was boggled, and he just kind of threw some old stuff at me that he had. And he's like, well, just give it a try. And I fell in love with it. Now there was that whole learning curve of, using the wrong inks on the wrong paper and it bleeding everywhere. And then, trying to figure out what works best with what. And then, to this day, I still struggle. I don't go from left to right since I'm right-handed. I still ink all over the paper. So I smudge. And that's where the white paint comes in. I'm like, I gotta fix it. Let's use some white out. And things like that. But I wouldn't have tried that had I not had that camaraderie and community. So I think that being around other artists is very important, not necessarily just because you're trying to, be better than somebody. It's just that you're around someone who also does not mind that you're looking down and not looking at their face while you're having a conversation, because they understand that you can't make eye contact and draw. Just not there yet. And that they, don't mind sharing what they have. Like again, the watercolor stuff, I wouldn't have even tried watercolor had I not run into another artist who was like, here, this is my old stuff. Why don't you play with that? And see if you can figure it out. I still haven't figured it out, but it's fun to play with.
I think though going from Copics to watercolor is not a giant leap though. Like it's still
not.
it's still using it's because fundamentally you're using the light to dark method where
Yes.
the darker it gets is because you keep applying glazes of color, and that's how Copics work. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty natural transition. It's just I think the wait time on watercolor is what throws people off. You have to dry. I mean, you can hot air dry that paper all you want. At some point, you're going to warp it too. So like,
Yeah, you got to let it sit. Now,
right.
and with Copics, I actually let them sit. But there's more control, and Copics seem to be more forgiving than watercolor, at least for me. And
And they don't
watercolor,
turn brown right away. So
yes,
right.
yes. And I'm all like, dang it, let's start over. So yeah, I use it mostly. The watercolors are mostly to color on top of my Copics and find splashy backgrounds for right now until I can figure it out.
Awesome. So you do commissions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What kind of commissions do you prefer? Like, like when someone's like, I want you to draw a character, do you prefer just to draw pre-existing characters or?
Um, uh, the commissions that I like is when people are like, hey, I saw such and such. If you like drawing that, could you just have some fun? And then I'm all like, yes, heck yes, I can have some fun. That'd be great, pre-existing or not. When people let me off my leash and let me play are my favorite commissions. The ones that I struggle with are when people are like, I want this character in this pose, wearing this outfit with the hair blowing this way, and I want that and this. And then get really, really specific to the point where I'm so restricted that it shows that I didn't have fun.
Right.
And I think that, but with commissions, as long as the client is happy, then I'm glad. I would like to have fun with it but and I'm going to do the best that I can because my name's on it. They're going to share it on the social media, so I don't want to be ashamed. Like, just hide it.
Oh, I've got a whole list of. There was a time I did these $10 commissions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, and for some reason that's what sticks when my name pops up somewhere, and I'm like, oh no, this guy just draws like a bad Rob Liefeld. And I'm like, thanks guys, that's what I get. Whatever.
Like that's my new brand. Thank you.
I always love it when a commissioner, is that the right? Commissioned client, whatever, becomes a little mini art director.
Yeah, it can get a little tedious sometimes when they get a little controlling. But I also understand too. It's that's something that they paid a lot of money for, because I'll go ahead and say my commissions are not cheap. So I understand the whole kind of heartburn aspect from their point of view of, hey, I paid a lot of money for this. I want to hang it on my wall and be proud of it. And I have had people be like, really, this is it? And I'm like, I'm sorry, yes.
That's an artist alley thing though, right?
Yeah, most of the time in the artist.
Yeah, people think that commissions that are done at home are the same quality you get live at a con. And I don't think they realize how many hours go into a home commission, because generally speaking, I don't know about you, Jen, but generally speaking for Rob, we put way more into those home commissions than we probably should sometimes.
Yes, well, the guilt. Right. You get that layer of guilt because you're like, dang it, I didn't start working on it. I need to make this look a little bit better. Or the whole, like for me, it's the play, like being, because I get a lot of joy with art. And so when I'm allowed to play with artwork and with commissions, yes, I do tend to put more time and effort into it. Plus, just not being interrupted every 5 minutes with, did you draw that?
So what you got going on here? What's going on? What you doing? Like, I'm currently drawing a commission, buddy.
Yeah. Or, well, my thing is like people are going, hey man, great art. And then Shane going, that was her.
Oh no.
Like, I'm like, he looks like a Jen. I totally understand. It's the hair.
Well, that's how I met Natalie and her husband, because her husband came to the booth. I was with Tom, and he was like, my wife draws. I'm like, okay, like, he's like, here's you want to see her art? I'm like, yeah, I do, but can you ask her to come? Like, because I don't know how to give you. It's not. Look, I'm just gonna be honest, man. Like, here's how it works. Artists have to rep their own art. Like, you know what I mean? Like, You go task them, but around here, and then when she did show up, I was like, okay, now you're pretty freaking amazing. You should talk to Tom, get paid. Tom was like,
Right?
you signing people up? I'm like, no, you are, but I'm recommending her art's pretty dope, dude.
You're like, that one
Right.
right there.
And I don't even
This is good.
know. I don't know how Tom found it. Tom finds some pretty good talent out there. Like he's always got some
Yeah.
new artists. I'm like, where do these people grow? Cause I want to grow a few. Like I need help. Like I have.
Right? He has an eye for it, honestly. And I like with Natalie and her husband at the time, I think that she was more shy and the whole networking stuff and whatnot. So I think that was what he was trying to do, was to try to promote her. Whereas now I don't think she has I haven't spoken to her in ages,
She's a rock star now.
Oh yeah, I know, and good for it, because she's so talented and amazing. And I think for the thing with me and Shane is that now the fan base basically sees us as a set, because wherever I am, he is, and vice versa. And usually what we do when we go to shows is that we set up and I stand the entire time. I stand drawing. I'm usually in front of the table. I have an easel so that people can look over my shoulder. I like to stand up and not be stuck behind the table, because if I get stuck behind the table, I'll just hide and kind of like, nest and start drawing, and then I won't talk to people. So it gives me the opportunity to turn around, to talk to folks, for people to watch me work. And also, marketing is creating that spectacle of seeing someone be creative. And so that's helped us, but it's really laughable, because people still come to the table and they see my stuff and they compliment Shane. And I'm legit standing in front of the table drawing.
Well, let me bring up your booth really quick, because when you posted pictures, I was like, man, your booth's come a long way, Jen. That looks pretty friggin' awesome. But it clearly says, like, if I could just scroll up here 1 second.
Yeah. Genevieve Broomall.
I know, and I'm like, big female drawing, you know what I mean? Like, Shane, wow. Like.
It's so girly. It's like a giant rainbow. And people still, and I told Shane, I was like, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. He's like, what is it, honey? I'm like, you need to be a booth babe. I got to put you in shorty shorts. They just don't understand.
I told Brandon that years ago. I need to put you in the same exact slave Leia outfit that all these other girls are wearing.
Wearing so many colors.
I believe there's an untapped potential here at Con, Brandon, that you need to step up and bring to my table.
You see what these girls are bringing? You see what they're bringing? They're working.
We literally should make beefcake and sell it there, like
Yes. And then have booth beef.
Oh no,
booth beef babes.
That is catching on though. Guys are now starting to feel comfortable enough to wear and pose in the same outfits. So I'm like, that's so awesome, because they should. For some reason, I get it.
It's fun.
Competition breeds seriousness. But in the mid 90s, the only people who took their cosplay serious at Comic-Con were the Star Trek people, and they were fucking weird. Like, I love Star Trek, especially Deep Space Nine, that's my jam, but they would only talk in Klingon, and you're like, I just want to know where the Eric Larson's at. Like, there's doc, flock, 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 and you're like, oh God, guys, can you just point? Can you just point? Klingons,
They have to hold up the sign. Live long and prosper. Thank you.
Nary a Ferengian sight to see his fucking dick. So, but that seriousness in cosplay took over. Mostly I think because the Japanese were kicking our ass, right?
Yes.
They're the most amazing, and now I think the fun has sort of come back in too.
It's gotten playful. It's definitely gotten playful. I have only cosplayed once, and that was it ended up kind of not working for me at the time. It was when I was at the Big Dog Ink booth. It was in the show in Texas, and I cosplayed as Dorothy, and I only did it once.
Oh.
And it stunk because people wouldn't take me seriously as an artist. Like I again sitting there drawing, and then the guy's like, oh, who's the artist? I'm like, me. And they're like, no, you're not. You're dressed up. And I'm like, no, it was still me. I can put on a costume and draw. Doesn't hinder me drawing. But I guess the whole idea is that you don't see, other, like now you do. Now there's more artists who actually have gotten into the cosplay because, again, like you said, it's gotten fun. But then I guess the idea that an artist would dress up, and then of course I kept getting asked, "Can we take your picture?" And I was like, "Dang, I really need to get these done." I don't do it. My kids did for Dragon Con, and they had a blast. They had so much fun. It's just basically become year-round Halloween.
Right.
And
especially if you're doing like 8 shows, right?
Right. So, but it was just a lot of fun. Like my oldest dressed up as Squirrel Girl because she had short red hair and she was perfect. And people went berserk, and she just was like, "This is seriously fun." So there's that playfulness is back in the whole cosplay part. And I do like Afua. She likes to cosplay at her table, but I don't think that she does a lot of commissions at her table due to that, because she gets asked for photos a lot. She looks beautiful. She looks like she's walked right out of a comic book herself. And her art is just amazing. But, I figured if I ever get a chance to go to a show, I would like to cosplay, just not, I don't know if I'd like to do it at my booth for one, comfort factor, and then two, just the interruptions and if I'm taking commissions and whatnot.
Right.
So, yeah, but
so getting back to art. So you ever come across art resistance? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Art resistance?
Yeah. So resistance. There's a book called The Art of War, or The War of Art. I can't remember what it's called. The Art of War. So
Okay.
it's about creative overcoming resistance, creative resistance. We like to call that procrastination, but I find this to be I find this to be completely different. Procrastination's one thing, that's a form of resistance, but especially when you get a little further down the line in your skill set, you ever find yourself just staring at your work, not doing anything? You're like, this is not, I don't know what it's all, I'm not drawing what, and you could force yourself, but some nights it's not working, no matter what you do.
It all boils down to, in the end, it becomes work. And I don't call it resistance. I call that burnout. So I guess I'm just not into the whole cool new terms. But yes. I've had that happen a few times. Usually, it happens to me right before a growth spurt in style, or like a shift in my artwork for the better. I have this like moment of just absolute frustration in the whole, like, almost like table flipping. I just don't want to do this anymore. And
right.
Just wanting to give up, or, going on Instagram, there's so much more talent out there, and, starting to have this little pity party with my wine and, and things like that. But I think that that's normal, because I think that we're our own worst critics. I think that we are harshest on ourselves. We're competitive, again, by nature. So we see other talent and we're, kicking ourselves. Why am I not better? Well, because you do it. And then, of course, when you have that work and you're necessarily drawing things that you don't particularly enjoy, or maybe you have gotten bored or stagnant, you get frustrated because you don't see improvement. And I think that's perfectly normal. So I think that you have to take some time to refill your creativity storage space, I guess. Like, take some time to do stuff you like, which was the whole #mermaid. And then I had, since the successful Kickstarter, it also kind of boosted my ego slightly. That was a lot.
That's right, everybody.
Hey, people liked it. I'm like, I was, you really like me.
Cut to next year, we're like, we've seen the mermaids. Draw some new shit. I don't know what else to do.
She's in a puddle of red wine. But again, it's one of those things where you have, like, so for me, what I started doing is I got these little tiny sketchbooks that fit in my purse, and I carried them everywhere, and I just started doodling whatever the heck was in my brain. So if I wanted to, like do some studies and stuff while sitting at the bus stop waiting for the kids, I'm like drawing trees and stuff. And of course, the HOA is looking at me like, what the heck? And I'm like, you need to try, you need to work on them bushes there, Steve.
Right.
Getting a little ratty-tatty. But it was just my way of getting out of the whole superhero stuff that I was doing constantly and forcing my headspace someplace different to spur again that creative thinking, and trying to also come up with something off the wall. Like I did a whole study on hyenas, which turned around because I found their shape to be fascinating. They are like the weirdest shaped critter. Like they have these huge shoulders. They're basically just a triangle with like a giraffe neck. It's weird. They are just really odd. And then after doing like 2-page studies of hyenas, just because I found them fascinating, I drew a Harley Quinn with her, hyena baby. So, I mean,
that's how you write off trips to the zoo now, right? On the taxes.
Yes, it's for work. like for a beefcake, like I tweeted last night. I was laughing so hard, and of course, I don't have a huge Twitter following, so I feel like I can tweet whatever I want. No one is like, there's going to get like 2 likes. Like no one even pays attention. But I tweeted last night, I was like, looking up, references for male anatomy makes me completely appreciate my husband. Be like, it's for the articles.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm looking it up for references. And then I'm like, but he does. It's true. It's for the articles. He makes a kick-ass margarita. So he did read. But it cracks me up that you're looking up all of this other stuff that's different, that pushes you out of your comfort zone, and then that stagnation will start to go away. It will start to let go, and then you're free to explore. And then all of a sudden, if you go back to your genre or your work or what what you've been doing, you come back with a fresh outlook on what you could create and what you can add to it. So I think it makes you more well-rounded, but the burnout is real. And I think that the only way to defeat the burnout is to take that time to fill the creative cup.
That's definitely true. It also gets very difficult when you're under when you're under deadlines and you're like, but I'm having a growth spurt. And they're like, we don't give a fucking crap, Rob. You know what I mean? We didn't hire you for your growth spurt, Rob. I do think that you are 100% right on that. It tends to come when you get to a certain professional level. It definitely comes when your art is about to change. And I think that that's like, I'm no neurosurgeon, obviously, but I did get this Udemy video once on how to perform brain surgery. So now I know how to do it. It was an 18-hour course. It's 18 hours, so obviously I put in the time. But there are like new pathways forming, and I feel like that sometimes that can be it. It can be those new pathways forming, and you're just like, I can't even do this right now. I need something else. And that ability to have something to go draw that has nothing to do with what you're working on or any pressure to even post it is very important, right?
Yes, just finding the joy of not having to stress on the outcome of your product, of what you're creating, is a relief in itself. And that's where I say it's like you're finding that kind of play, that joy in art that we used to have as kids, and it's very freeing. But nothing is worse than when you're working on something and it just isn't working, and you're so frustrated because you got to get it done and it's just not happening. That is like the worst predicament to be in. And I don't know any professional who has not been in that predicament at one point in time.
I remember it happened to me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2016. Yeah. So it was Christmas 2016. I got this cover to do as Grand Theft Auto cover for this French gaming magazine. I was like, I always wanted to be big in France. So I was super excited. But I was still doing my shades by hand, in Photoshop. And I was like, I turned that cover in. I was not happy. And I could tell, you could tell, when they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And so it was Christmas, and I went downstairs, and my wife and I had we have that Muppet Christmas special we watch I have a whole folder of stuff we watch every year. So I'm watching that, and then somewhere along the way, something like clicked into place. So I'm like, I'll be back. She's like, no, don't go back up to your room. No, I'll be right back. Oh no, there goes Christmas. So 12 hours later, I recolored the whole cover using the lasso tool, where you draw out like cuts and grads. You draw out your highlights and you airbrush stuff in, and you soften edges, and like I had never done it. It had never made sense. I knew how to do it for 20 years. Could never. I don't know. Just didn't drawing with a lasso tool. Made no sense to me. But it definitely happened that day, and I recolored the whole cover and sent it back in, and they're like, what? And, and I was like, hey, it works. I upgraded. Ha, Merry Christmas. So mulled wine for everybody, It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah. You're not Uncle Scrooge anymore. Like,
I walked down like Michael Caine, you know what I mean? Yes. Kick that little bunny. That's my favorite scene when the little...
I love it. But those are those epiphanies. Those are those, those moments that we have where you don't know where it's going to hit you. But all of a sudden that light bulb goes off and you're like, I am an idiot. And then you're like, you have those eureka and you run off and they're like, no. Everybody else around you is like, what are you doing? You're like,
has that happened to you during a project for a client, like on Lights, Camera, Jungle? Did it happen there?
Lights, Camera, Jungle was tough. It was tough for me because I had started doing it, and then we had hit a life snag where we were in Alabama, and it was fun being in Alabama, but where we were was a little backwoods, so to speak. And Shane, God love him, was in an environment that was not very appreciative of the diversity hires. And we just realized that we did not like that environment to raise our families. And though we were closer to our family back in Pensacola, it was just not what we wanted to raise our kids around, And then of course, this is coming from someone who is also, I am legit biracial, 50-50. And when people in that area found out, then I started to become treated differently. Granted, both my kids look, like their dad. They're very pale, but whatevs. But the thing is that we just realized that it was not good. So here I am in the middle of drawing a 40-page book, having never really drawn interiors before. So, kids.
That was your first interior work, right?
It was.
Because I think I gave you the good luck. I think I remember at that story, you're like, this is my first time. I'm like, good luck.
Yeah, you did. You kind of gave me a thumbs up, like, good luck to you, kid. And I'm like, I can do anything. You're like,
life is reading Rainbow. You can do anything.
Yes, you can.
Slowly.
Read the book.
Right.
But basically, it was that huge transition of doing covers is different than interiors because it's storytelling. And I found out that by doing interiors, I tend to think of more of like a graphics designer. So I would try to face everybody inward because that's what you do on the inside of magazines and books. And then, of course, I'd get the edits. They're not walking that way. You have them going the wrong direction. Leave room for words. And things like that. So it was difficult for me. So I was in this whole learning curve. Then we had to scramble to, for Shane to get another job because, again, we're living off of one income. And it was just this huge life thing. And then we moved. So we settled in Savannah. We were there for a couple of years. Found a great art community there, was starting to finally get my legs with Lights, Camera, Jungle, but it was taking a lot longer than I had anticipated and had hoped. And then he got promoted, which is great because Shane is, again, very successful. He gets promoted quickly, but we had to move again.
Wow.
So then I wrapped it up here in Jacksonville. And after I sent it all in and was done with it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because it took too much time, and with young children, and then moving twice within that whole situation and everything, it was just too much. But I look back and I see that by the end of the book, I had finally found my interior legs. Like you can look at the front, and the front is I am not happy with, but the back of the book, I'm like, you can see, like, there's one page where I finally freaking figured it out.
And then you quit. Right?
And then I
Typical artist.
I know. God, we're so flaky. But by that learning experience, I realized that, yes, I do want to do interiors again. Not right now, and not 40 pages worth. But that if I explore it some more, like if you, in my sketchbooks even, I'm starting to do, like, you know, some page layouts and things like that to just kind of make sure that I still have that. I noticed that I like doing the talking heads. I like drawing emotion. Need to practice more on drawing action and things like that. And of course, buildings are the bane of my existence. But you know, everybody has their crutches that they don't like. And but it was a huge learning experience, but it also taught me my weaknesses and my boundaries. So, you know, at least I have my set boundaries now. When people ask me, like, will you do interiors? I'm like, a 6-pager, maybe. Anything else? No.
Yeah, that's why I tell publishers, and they're like, we don't have 4 issues, you know, I don't like 4 pages for, you know, but then they'll show up every other year. It's like, Rob, why did you do 4 pages in a yokai watch? And I'm like, well, you know, here's how it works, you know, like someone didn't turn in 22 pages that month, and, you know, and Rob's just waiting to snatch up the moolahs.
Yeah, 4 pages.
Speaking of, I was reminded when you're talking about joy and art, and then you were talking about HOA. You think Bob Ross was ever in charge of his HOA? Like, you know, like, you know, you could use a little happy little tree in your yard. You know, like, I don't know about those trees. You know, like, I always wonder, like, you ever think?
I would love to see Bob Ross in an HOA being like, your tree needs a little friend.
Right. All my younger artists like, what the hell is an HOA, you old turd? You know.
Oh, it's when you get into them neighborhoods and then everybody's policing you, like, you need to trim your hedges there.
How about take your lights down? You know, like that. That's all. You know, I'm all for January, February, but in May, it's like, come on, guys, they're fading.
I know. They're still like, why didn't you take your Halloween decorations down? Although I will have to say, I had a moment, and I swear, I think that I might, like, legit just start like a little mini comic strip, just of, is my neighbor a witch? No, she's an artist.
Witcher artist, we can't tell. You know,
yeah, because I like having skulls in my studio for references. I've got a little deer skull in it right now, and then I went back home. My parents are, you know, I love them. My parents look like Lucy and Desi. My mom's got the flaming red hair. My dad's this little brown man, but both with hillbilly accents. It's great. And they live out in the sticks, and they have a collection of, like, cow and horse and deer skulls. And there's a horse skull that my father and I found back when I was a teenager, and we were horseback riding, and we found it out in the field, and it's been out in their barn forever. And I was like, do you mind if I take that home? And we got to bleach it because it's been sitting out, you know, in the elements. I was like, I got to bleach it, and I got to put sealant on it, because if you don't put sealant on skulls, just heads up, they will flake, they will deteriorate. And we have a skull over our mantle it's an elk skull, but it had a deformity, so it actually looks really, really cool. So I guess it's kind of like macabre, but I have all these, like, dead things. Yeah, around my office.
I like how you finally you caught up to that thought. You know, you're like, I have all these dead things. Oh no, that's kind of out there now.
Kind of scary. But so I'm cleaning this horse skull.
One sec. All right. Amazon.
Oh, sorry. In my front yard.
Right.
And I'm holding it up, and I'm putting the sealant on it. So we had bleached it. It's clean. I got all the flakies off. It's not brown and crusty looking anymore. So I'm putting the sealant on it. So I'm out in the front yard, and I'm spraying it. My kids are riding their bikes on the road, you know, just, you know, very Leave It to Beaver-esque situation, with the exception of me holding a giant horse skull in my hand. And the neighbor drives by, and here in me and all my Southernisms, like, you know, like Aunt Pity Pat or something in the front yard, like, hey, how y'all doing? And they just start driving really fast.
That's gonna pay off though, Jen. When
I'm
Beta
like, oh crap.
when Beta Ray Bill shows up in a Thor movie, they're gonna go, "It's Beta Ray Bill." You know, like I killed him. You know.
And I'm like, oh god. They were like, oh, who is this woman? So I'm like, okay, I'll do the rest of the stuff in the backyard. They can't see me. I guess they thought I was like sacrificing a goat or something. I don't know, but
Definitely a witch.
Yeah, and like, you know, my kids, we were weeding, and my youngest, they call her my dark princess because she loves everything pink, but she just has a darkness to her. And she was wearing this mask, and my neighbor, who's a friend, took a picture of her. She's holding a thing of twigs, wearing a black dress and this really pretty mask, but it looks scary as heck. And she's like 4, and she's just happy to see them. But she wrote me, "What is this?" Like,
to be fair, He-Man was fairly dark too, right? I mean,
I know, right?
I mean, he was a living skeleton, and so you know.
I mean, never-ending story. Come on.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But you know, it's just kind of like, yeah. I think that would be a funny little strip, at least for me. Is my witch or artist? Yeah, we have those little moments here in our little HOA neighborhood because it is a little bougie.
Well, I like to wrap up the. I want to wrap this up here. Wow, hours. Time just flies, Jen. You got all the stories.
It does. Having fun.
So if you this is hypothetical, right? So let's say you decide you had the opportunity to draw any one comic, and you're like, I feel like doing interiors again. What would be your pick for a pre-existing comic, past or present, you'd like to do? If you could just do one issue.
If I could just do one issue, I would love to get on, again, back to the whole Brian Froud. I'd love to get on like a Dark Crystal issue, or even, you know, I love, oh goodness, I love so many titles. It's ridiculous. Like Saga Monstrous. If you haven't read that book, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like looking at the interiors of that book, I'm like, oh, I wish I could draw like that. Again, complexes, but something with monsters or high fantasy, oddly enough, not a superhero book.
Yeah, if I could pick a book for you, it'd be Thundercats.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Because that is a mix of superhero and fantasy.
It's not real life. That's what my mom told me. No. Women don't jump 50 feet in the air and look like cats. I'm like, but they could, you know, if they believed in themselves.
I'll tell you my abuela, she'd be like, so she, you know, it's not supposed to be real. We're supposed to suspend our belief. But yeah, Thundercats would be a fun mix of fantasy and superhero, because you got the kind of superhero body types, but you also have the fantasy that they're cats.
Mumra's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're not a fan of the story, like that's a pretty cool name and a visual. So wrapping all of it up, Jen, what's next for you? What's up on the pike? What's coming?
What I'm doing right now is I'm in the stable at Coffin. So the Lady Death, La Muerta, Hell Witch comics, you'll see those steadily coming forward. And so Brian pretty much just is like, hey, you want to draw this? I'm like, yes. Or I reach out and I'm like, I want to draw that. And I do it, and it'll get published one day. Which is great.
You cut out a little bit. Sometimes Discord does that. So Coffin Comics is the imprint from Brian Pulido.
Yes.
I had the fortunate ability to meet him right when they first formed Chaos. In San Diego. They did an art contest at a comic shop called Good Guys, Bad Guys. And when they first formed Chaos, Lady Death issue 1, I think they had that there. And he was there with his wife, and they were like, if you draw a character, and the winner will have their character in the comic. I did not win. Sweet. So, no. But was it Morales? Mark Morales? The big giant dude recently passed away. He was there, and they were still coloring all their comics with markers at the time, too. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's killing it on Kickstarter. If you want to look on how to do a Kickstarter campaign, Brian Pulido is not one to like be shy about his success. He is slaying it, but he's doing it smart. He has everything finished up front.
Right. Yeah, that's very smart. Yeah, very smart.
That's how you Kickstarter campaign. That's what I did with done. I was just waiting for the money to print it. So yeah, have it finished first, and then it goes much smoother. But yeah, his titles, and then I've been doing some store exclusives of Vampirellas through Port City Comics. And just had Marvel reach out to me recently. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, this wouldn't be the first time, so we'll see. Again, I'm like, I can't do interiors right now.
Right.
But yeah.
We'd like it by Monday.
Yeah, by Monday. 40 pages. No, I can't. But we'll see. We'll never know. And then, of course, my own art books. I'm hoping to do some of those.
Well, the Vampirella stuff's looking pretty awesome. We could see the
Thank
skulls.
you.
Is that the skull that's on your mantle?
That is the skull. That
one
is a reference I have. And the fun thing with the exclusives through Port City is that Steve is letting me play with different styles. So he's really not giving me much guidance other than draw a Vampirella. And he's giving me the thumbs up. He's like, draw as many until you're bored. So I get to really play with this character and then also play with doing different styles. So if you see the 3 that I've done so far, they do have very distinct different looks to them. I mean, they all have their undercurrent still looks like my work, but it is very different from the normal stuff that I usually create. So being able to play has been a lot of fun. And me and Anna have been talking about creating our own exclusives where, we pay for the runs. So, well, that came out bad. The runs of the comics.
Spicy tie it is, Jen. You know what I
mean? One way to lose weight and still eat. We pay for the comic book runs, and then we pay for all of it so that we get to put our name on it and sell it and whatnot. And then I think that might be a fun way to draw covers that I want to draw and see if anybody bites. So yeah, I'm all about like, hey, let's see if I can do stuff, if I've got the brain and creativity to create it.
I don't think there's any question of that. So everything's super awesome, Jen. I've been doing a few interviews recently. What I try to do is every few years I just try to make the rounds and go, hey, you were my friend once. We should talk again.
It's been a while, and man, I miss it. It's good to hear from you.
I've been living in my sketch cave. That's basically it. So it's been super nice to catch up with all the artists. I got a few more coming up, and then I'm going to be done talking to people for a while. But your stuff is super, super awesome. Come a long way. You were pretty freaking awesome 3 years ago. You're all right when I met you. You were okay. But no.
It's just okay.
No, so it was super. And when there was a delay on Lights, Camera, Jungle, I was like, that happens. Like I was like, Tom, it happens, man. He's like, I know. I'm patient. She's awesome. So he never once talked trash. I just want you to know.
No. And it was all, I had it just, it was a learning experience. And again, life just hit us with a 2x4.
Well, I'm looking forward. Definitely, I will be paying attention to your Instagram. That's what I follow for the most part.
I love Instagram.
Is there anything else? Do you have an online store you like to plug, or the Twitch? We got right here Twitch at Broom Closet Studio, twitch.tv.
It's now the Twitch channel is not the Broom Closet.
Oh no! You need to update your Instagram link.
I do. Well, I thought that I had.
No, I'm clicking on it right there.
Okay, so I changed it because it's now just Jen Broomall, all one word. And so it's Jen Broomall is the Twitch channel. So thank you for letting me know on Instagram. I'll fix that. And we're reverting back to Jen instead of Genevieve, because I would tell people my full name and then typing it, they'd glaze over. And then I'm working on the store. Store is still shut down at the moment, and I'm on Twitter, Jen Broomall Art, Facebook, Art of Jen Broomall, Instagram, Art of Jen Broomall, and then Twitch, Jen Broomall. And I actually will be starting that next week. So yay!
Awesome. Well, Jen, you send me the links, and then in the video they will all be below the video, so everyone can click those. Because every now and then someone goes, "You like to talk how you're not famous, but I don't send any links to any of your stuff." I'm like, all right, thank you, life advice coach. 1138. Like whatever.
Life.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Jen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to cue the music here, folks. Look at that. That was super awesome. Wasn't it? I think we learned a lot today, folks. I think we learned... Well, we learned that Jen is an amazing artist. We probably didn't know who she was, because I just kind of learned about some of this stuff, too. Like, I knew Jen for a while, but, man, I did not know she was killing it with the mermaid book until just like a month ago. So we learned that. We also learned that Bob Ross should probably never be in charge of an HOA, and skulls are fun. Skulls are fun. Thanks for hanging out, folks. Peace.